Okay, so now we're going to play the C major scale exercise on page 60 to page 61 with repeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a lot to that exercise. In order to play this well, you should take it in bits and pieces. The first two lines, which are repeated, is the statement of the scale in second position. All the way from C to A, down to C, down to low F, back to C. That repeats. Then there is the statement of the scale with a passing tone from G to G sharp to A and coming back down, A to A flat, which is G sharp, back to G. So you should practice that on its own. Then you would be adding the exercise, which starts on 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth line, where it's a little melodic. And so forth. In the second page of it, page 61, the next to the last measure, we have this. A. You might say, well, you said that you had to play F always with your first finger in the first fret and not in the sixth fret with your fourth finger on the second string. If you read the bottom blurb, it says, when an out of position note is immediately preceded or followed by a note played with the same finger that would normally make the stretch reverse the usual finger stretch. In other words, instead of A, that's very, very, instead of, so instead of moving or like that, just stretch for the F. Now here's the eighth note study on the middle of page 61. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's another exercises that use some chromatic notes. There is a scale in jazz that is called the bebop scale, and that is an 8-note scale as opposed to our major scale that consists of 7 notes. When you add an extra chromatic to the major scale, what it does is that it puts all strong notes on the beat instead of that outline the chord. In other words, in a C major triad, here's your C major triad. If we're doing just 8 notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Notice we're ending on the C on the and the 4. When we add the G sharp, a chromatic, we're coming back to the C right on the beat 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Notice on the downbeat we end on 1. And that actually puts all our chord tones right in the right position if we're playing a scale against the C major chord. In the 8th note study that we just played, we're taking C, and then we're taking the note B and we're adding a chromatic there. A, G, G again, F, E, D. So that's a good exercise to work on. The next study we have is an arpeggio study, broken chords. An arpeggio, when you play an arpeggio, you're playing the notes in a chord in the order that comes next. 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. We're not playing just chord tones. To me, just chord tones are 1, 5, 3, 5, 1, 3. Those are chord tones. Arpeggios are chord tones in a row. These arpeggio studies that we're going to have in each key that we study, we're going to play them 2 different ways. The first way we're going to play it is that new way that we played on page 59, where every new string, especially going up the chord, we're going to have a downstroke. Then the second time we play it, I'm going to play it with all alternate picking. When you practice this, you should do one or the other and practice it for a while, then switch and do the other one. Let's say you start with alternate, practice that a while, then play it with that new picking that we call. Let's call it the rest stroke picking. So, but when I'm demonstrating it now, I'm first going to do it with all the rest strokes, and then the second time through, I'm going to do it with all alternate picking. 1, 2, 3. Notice when you're going C, E, G, that's what that picking. When you're coming back down the arpeggio, usually I do alternate, and as it has. So, alternate. Down, 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 up, and so forth. And the second time through, I used all alternate picking. In the first measure, we have C, E, then we have G, C, E. They're all in the same fret. What I don't do is lift up our finger. What we do is roll our fourth finger. See? Even coming back down. So the first time, the first measure we're going, the fourth measure we're going. That's a hard maneuver, but just do it slowly. We're going to come up to it now. Notice I just don't go to the E with I make sure. Here's a good exercise to get that going. Just take the first two strings and start playing. Then the next two strings. Next two. Then try three. I'm not even thinking notes. I'm just trying to get my finger to get strong enough to roll. The way I would practice this first is to make it all quarter notes again. And not even worry about the picking. Get your right hand just comfortable and get your left hand just going for the notes. And then you can pick up speed. Hold the C, and then we play the E and the C together. In addition to playing these arpeggios, we should basically know what chord we're playing, because they are arpeggios of chords. So I will tell you what chord. The first measure is a C major. The second one is D minor. The next one is a G7. Back to 1 or C. To F. To C. G7. So we're hearing C, D minor, G7, C, F, C, G, C, C, D minor, G7, C, F, C, G7, C,